Hi, come on in. There's always room for one more in my sewing circle. Welcome to Donna's Sewing Circle. If you found me today, you're probably a beginner quilter because that's what this class is. This is lesson 2 in a series of 15 where I will talk you through the things that you need to prepare you before you actually start quilting. I have a 15-part series. If you look in the links or the description you'll find a link to the coordinating book. It's a workbook. You can follow along through the workbook with my video. And then if you have the workbook, you won't have to keep referring back to my videos. So it's a great help, and it's also a great gift idea if you know somebody who's beginning quilting. Okay, so today's lesson 2, is about the tools you'll need for your quilting adventure, because it is an adventure. I started mine 20 years ago, and I've never looked back. I've made hundreds of quilts. Most of them I've given away, either to family members or people in need. And I still do that today. So that was my journey. I would love to hear in the comments your journey about quilting. If today is the beginning of it, or if you've been quilting for a little bit and you want to refresh your course, love to hear. Okay, so what we need to quilt, the very first thing I would get is a mat. This one is a 23 by 17. It's as large as my area will handle. I actually have 5 or 6 mats. I have a very large cutting space in the next room over. My studio is the upper part of my garage. It's 1,500 square feet. This happens to be the only room at the moment that is air conditioned. So we're in here today because this is July, and you can imagine how hot my garage is outside. So anyway, get yourself a cutting mat. There's some cutting mats that have a whole lot of lines. They're purple. I really recommend that you do not get those. Get one that has lines every inch. They will help you tremendously. It'll help you tremendously if you can get one that's an inch grid when it comes to cutting and getting your fabric ready. So after the mat, you definitely need a rotary cutter. I actually recommend the Fiskars brand. If you go down below, I have a link to my Amazon store. If you don't have any of these supplies, feel free to click the link. It doesn't cost you any more to use my link, but I do make a small commission off of it, so it helps me continue making videos. But I would recommend the Fiskars brand. They're very nice. So you need a mat, you need a cutter. The next thing is a quilting ruler. Get one that's wide. It helps protect your fingers when you're cutting, because you're holding it down when you're cutting. And if you have a little narrow one, your fingers can actually accidentally get in the way of the rotary cutter. Ask me how I know that one, because I used to have a thin cutting ruler, and my child, who happened to be probably 11, kept yelling my name, and I was like cutting, and I said, "What?" And as I said, "What?" I looked up, and I think it was my finger, and cut my finger pretty badly. So always pay attention. Don't let interruptions come while you're cutting, because you can very easily cut yourself. This is a razor. It's as sharp as a razor blade. It is a razor blade. So be very careful with it. Always keep it where the blade is put away when you're not using it. Get a ruler, quilting ruler. The one is at least as large as your cutting mat. Mine is larger, but like I said, I've got 5 cutting mats, and I've got some very large ones in the other room. I love this ruler. I highly recommend this one. As you can see, I've used it a lot. The writing is faded on it. So you need a ruler, you need a mat. These 3 go hand in hand. You need all 3 to be cutting fabric. It won't do if you just get the mat and the cutter, because you won't be able to cut a straight line. You need this ruler. You need all 3. So after that, you need a walking foot. I'll post this link down below. Not everybody has a walking foot. You need this at the very end stage of your quilting, when you have all 3 layers together. and you're trying to sew over it because it's very thick. This will help get you through the layers. And then, of course, you'll need your handy dandy seam ripper because we all make mistakes. We all have to undo our stitches. That's part of quilting. So make friends with it. And then you'll need pins and or clips. I use them both. Some portions I use my clips, and then other parts I use my pins. I like these pins. They're 1.5 inches long. Have a nice ball head so you can see them. They're colorful. I also have some flat pins. I don't have them in here to show you right now, but you can get them in my Amazon store if you're interested. I do have those. I used to teach and have a sewing store, so I have a lot of tools. You need scissors. These are my short ones. Need scissors. I have two. Actually, I have probably 20, but you need a large one and a small one. Don't think you have to go out and buy 20 pairs of scissors because Donna does, or that you need every type of pin or every type of clip there is. Just get the basic necessities, either clips or pins. If you can't afford anything else, get either or. If you can't afford both, get the pins. Okay, and I believe that's, oh, you need an iron and an ironing board. I don't have it here, but you know what an iron is. You need an iron and an ironing board. Very important because it's very important that you get an ironing board because if you don't have one, because you have to iron between every step. Anytime you sew something together, you've got to iron it. So get you a good iron, one that turns off automatically would be perfect. That's the kind I have. That way you don't leave your sewing room for a couple hours and come back and the iron's still on. It's no good because we all forget something. And a lot of people, it's the iron. So be sure or if you can afford it, get you an iron that will automatically turn off. Get you a nice ironing board. You can get those at Walmart. And I actually have, I don't know if you can see in the background here. There you go. That's my ironing station. I absolutely love it. And I always put a throw quilt over the top of my ironing board. I don't know why. I just do. And then instead of using starch, I go and buy this. You get this at Walmart. It's got the best scent. And every time you heat up your iron and iron your ironing board, even if you don't have any fabric or haven't sprayed any of this on it, it releases that scent. It smells good. Your whole studio will smell awesome. Okay, ladies, that was lesson number 2 in our beginning quilting journey. Please join me for lesson number 3. It's right down below. So happy quilting. God bless. And I will see you in a few minutes. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm working on getting up to 500 subscribers. I've already reached like 250, which blows my mind because my channel is only maybe 10 days old. So I appreciate your support. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming back, and I will see you tomorrow.